Hey guys, thanks for clicking on this video. Just pop it in here before we start to let you know this is going to be a longer one. If you wanted to wait a couple days, we'll put out the concise list video, but you know, still just pop this one in on the background. We need the views. We love you guys. Bye.
Hello Internet! Welcome back to Cinema Brawls, the show where we put two movies head to head to see which one is better, all the while leaving what we're wearing underneath this table as ambiguous as possible. I'll give you a hint, Daniel's wearing a kilt. But
Which is a fancy word for a dress, by the way.
Right. But today we'll be doing no such thing. Today we'll be ranking all of the Harry Potter movies. So if you all remember last time we did a ranking video, we've got all 8 Harry Potter movies, plus the 2 Fantastic Beasts movies in this Harry Potter themed mug.
For those of you that can't count, that is 10 movies in total.
Yes. It's shorter than our other rankings, but so it shouldn't take as long. But maybe that gives us more room for
That's a top 10
discussion.
list.
Yeah, it's a top 10 list, right?
Yeah, top 10 list.
Real quick, just got to put this out there. Not so much for us, but for you, the viewers. We are ranking the movies. I realize the books are very different, and if for whatever reason we dislike a movie because the story might be boring or a character doesn't have development or whatever, I realize the books may fix those problems.
Can I point out that the background and development of the characters in Harry Potter is just ludicrous?
Ludicrous.
Like,
there's an entire website devoted just to background
There's
building.
stories about stories on the freaking characters, and they're all interconnected, and like, there's no way they put these into the books or the movies, so where's all this info coming from?
A lot of the info is coming from J.K. Rowling, just still talking about
I
it.
know!
Like,
Let's go ahead and get this started.
Yes, let's. So, just like our last rankings, we got the board over here, got little tags that we'll stick on so that to visualize the ranking.
I love the tags that you make.
Thank you. I work really hard on the tags.
What do we got?
Start with the 2.
Alright, The Order of the Phoenix.
Deathly Hallows, Part 2.
Part 2.
Part 2 dose.
Okay.
Order of the Phoenix is
Dude, I
the
love
worst Harry Potter movie
What?
It really...
that there is.
Well, it's bad. It's really bad. I don't like it.
Yeah, it's so boring. I mean, the whole plot to Order of the Phoenix is, hey, let's, train and rebuild the Order of the Phoenix. All they do is spend their time practicing magic. It's like we're watching them go to class, which is just so boring.
Which, there's parts of that are necessary. It's the politics of Order of the Phoenix that really hurt it. The fact that the Ministry's stepping in, great, sure, fine, whatever. But they have all these laws and bylaws and Ministry this and Ministry that, and it's just so obnoxious.
Yeah, I mean, I get what they were going for, and I think they did a good job of making what they were going for. But it's just to such a degree. It's like, you want to hate Dolores Umbridge, right?
She did a good job. We
all
hate her.
Yeah, we all hated her, but I hate her so much that it just pisses me off watching the movie.
And see, that's one of the things is I feel like what they were trying to do, specifically with the movie side of things, was show that Harry was growing into more of a leadership role. Yeah, he can do this stuff himself, but now is the time for him to start inspiring people, start actually creating something bigger than just himself.
I don't doubt that Order of the Phoenix was important to the story, the narrative as a whole. I'm just saying, as a self-contained movie, it was not great.
Of the movies, yeah, I would say it's probably one of the weaker ones, especially compared to Deathly Hallows Part 2, which is like the ultimate...
Well, that's the climax.
Yeah, that's...
I mean, obviously...
That's what we're here for.
Right. And Part 2 was amazing.
It was.
It was fun.
So good.
I will say I watched all of them today and yesterday. Order of the Phoenix...
Today? Holy cow.
Yesterday and today. It's fine.
Homeboys had the time.
Yeah, quarantine will do that to you. I realize I've probably judged Order of the Phoenix way too harshly in the past. Watching it today, I realize, obviously, the politics are still bad. The overall plot is weird. Like, the whole prophecy thing, it was all fake. It was all just a trap that Voldemort was setting to get Harry out of Hogwarts, away from Dumbledore's protection, just so he could kill him again.
Or at least attempt to.
Or at least attempt to. Like...
Because he was the only one that could grab the
prophecy. But the thing is there's nothing in that prophecy we didn't already know. Oh yeah, Harry and Voldemort are polar opposites. Who would have thought?
Well,
one can't survive without the other. Who would have thought? And it's just, we're going to ignore the fact that there's an entire room in the Ministry of Magic full of prophecies that no one has ever talked about before or will remember since. And they just destroy it all, by the way. While
it's
fighting the Death Eaters.
Cool looking.
Oh yeah, the visuals are great.
Yeah, I think it's one of the most visually pleasing movies.
Definitely, especially the part where the Fred and George break into the final exams and fireworks everywhere.
Right.
Love that part.
Which,
also, like the final fight scene between, like, all the good wizards and all the bad wizards and stuff.
Oh yeah,
like super cool.
Right.
Which Gary Oldman died.
Fine, but again, by itself, it's lacking.
Yeah.
I feel like
that's not enough to carry it through.
It had the parts of a good movie. It just didn't quite mesh together.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, but I mean, let's talk about the greatness of part 2, though. That was basically the end game, the last hour of the end game for Harry Potter universe.
I have never cried as hard in a movie theater.
Oh, I know. Like, even for weird side characters, like Ron's random girlfriend before getting eaten by the werewolf dude. This just shows her for a second, and you're like, oh my gosh. Like is she still alive? If so, she's a werewolf now. That'll happen.
This has consequences. People die.
Yeah.
And it's people that we know and like, even. Not just like the bad guys are going to die because an 11-year-old touched his face. No, like people that we know and grew up with died.
Was that Hedwig the first?
Oh my.
Or was that part 1?
That was in part 1, but we'll get to Hedwig.
You're right. Save that for later.
Right.
But yeah, you're right. Like that scene, Battle of Hogwarts starts. Professor McGonagall goes up, is like, alright, stand back, kids. Waves her wand and freaking stone golems fall out of the sky. You're like, holy cow. That was my first Goosebumps moment, like, oh yeah, it's all coming together.
Yeah. Part 2, I mean, that's where, good versus evil. That was the showdown. That's where sacrifices are made and people die, and honestly, that's kind of what it was all building up to. That's what you want from the movie. So I think, I mean, it's been obvious, but I'm putting this one above Order of the Phoenix.
Sure.
Let's just put them right in the middle for now. Can move them as they go. Creepy looking Voldemort picture, dude.
I know.
All
Voldemort's
pictures
creepy
of Voldemort
looking.
are creepy.
Yeah, that's kind of the point. Chamber of Secrets.
Okay.
Now calm down.
Chamber of Secrets is so good. It's so good.
Honestly, Chamber of Secrets might be the best of the Harry Potter films.
I really love that movie. I don't think it's as good looking of a movie. And what I mean by that is it's the one by Christopher Columbus.
Sure.
Or Chris Columbus, sorry. He's one of those directors that's just like, okay, he made a movie. And I think that it's good because of the source material, not because of Chris Columbus's direction of it. I really liked how in Prisoner of Azkaban and on it was more stylized. There was more. It was more contrasty. It was less twee, for lack of a better term. It was. They weren't wearing their robes everywhere. It was more casual, but still like a darker tone. There were a lot more blue tones instead of in the first two. There was reddish, warm colors throughout.
Here's what I like about number 2. So in each Harry Potter movie, you have kind of like 2 parts to it. One is the overarching storyline. The other part is the exploration of like the wizarding world. You get to see how things work in this world. The first Harry Potter had a lot more to do with exploring the wizarding world. It was introducing you to it, which is great. It was a good movie.
The Voldemort plot was kind of secondary.
The Voldemort plot was a little bit secondary. They kind of stumble upon it towards the end. Whereas in this one, the plot is a lot more heavy, but you still get elements of the wizarding world in it. But, it turns more into like this, fantastic, magic world type movie into more of like a, almost kind of like a horror thriller.
Oh my god. Second half, when you start hearing the voices in the walls, like, it gets creepy.
Or like blood written on the walls.
Oh yeah. I mean, right away somebody dies.
Right.
And it's like, oh, this is important for the whole school. We all need to care about what's happening. It's not just Harry that needs is it's not just Harry's gonna die because Voldemort's doing a thing or someone escaped from prison. This is like this affects everybody.
Everybody could and probably will die if nothing happens.
Right. Yeah. And, I mean, as a self-contained story, it works. It has the plot line. It follows through.
Mm-hmm.
Has a good climactic ending, a nice bad guy. Mm-hmm. And I think it works really well on all of its levels.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, yeah, for sure.
I really like the side characters as well. I mean, we've got Gilderoy Lockhart. This is the first appearance of Ginny. We got Dobby. All of them just great.
The Basilisk?
The Basilisk.
Goodbye, son.
And even, like, watching it handful of times later, I still think the way the mystery unravels is super interesting.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. I think as the storyline, this, like, by itself, this one was the most entertaining to watch.
Definitely.
And that's why it's probably at the top of my Harry Potter movies list.
Really?
Same.
Okay, cool. No, I mean, I really like it too. But
what would you say your favorite is,
My
actually,
favorite?
before we continue?
probably Prisoner of Azkaban.
Yours is Goblet of Fire, right?
No, mine's number 2.
Oh, okay.
What's yours?
Yeah, it kind of flips between Chamber of Secrets and Prisoner of Azkaban, honestly.
Cool.
Well, I would put this above Part 7 either way.
Easily.
Goblet of Fire.
Great.
Hey, cool.
This one is actually one of my favorites.
It's good.
Matt thinks it's too boring because of the ball.
See, here's the thing. The parts where they're actually playing the games, doing the Triwizard Cut, super interesting. Intense. There's a dragon, and the Mer people was interesting, and the maze is intense.
Yeah.
And Voldemort coming back, I mean, come on.
Yeah, that's the thing. It's like a Hunger Games style of Harry Potter. Freaking all these games, people dying. Mm-hmm. And then I think Goblet of Fire has one of the best endings to a Harry Potter movie, where it's just left you like, what the freak,
Definitely.
dude?
Oh, yeah.
The emotional impact of this one just far outweighs any of the other ones for me.
Here's the thing, though. Sorry, I didn't mean to cut you off.
No, you're good.
The parts with the games and Voldemort and all that are super great, interesting. The parts where that isn't happening were so boring. Because the rest of the time is just everybody yelling, and they're all mad at each other, and there's a lot of teenage angst, and the freaking Yule Ball part takes up half the movie, it feels like.
And their hair. Their hair is so long and poofy.
I know, I don't know why.
There's gotta be angst and poof. Whether it was Wizarding World or not, this is still high school during the time of prom.
I understand that, but that doesn't mean it's interesting to watch.
Women!
The point is, the games is what took up most of the movie. And it did.
It really didn't.
Along with the ending, at the very least. Oh, and I want to throw in Mad-Eye Moody was dope.
It's got David Tennant. It's got David Tennant. David Tennant.
Right.
He's good.
The characters in it were the most intriguing. Cedric was awesome. Freaking love that guy.
Oh, Cedric?
Cedric was cool.
Cedric was cool.
If you didn't feel anything for Cedric, you didn't feel anything for the end of that movie.
No, I definitely felt something for Cedric. Mad-Eye Moody, all of his character development wasn't real. It wasn't really Mad-Eye Moody. It was David Tennant.
That's
posing
okay,
as
though.
That's what's
it's
funny
not
about
okay.
it.
Because the evil version of Mad-Eye Moody was cool. He was the villain of the story.
He was, but then we're just supposed to assume that the real Mad-Eye Moody was also doing that the whole time, because we carry on through the story like, oh hey, remember with the games? Like, oh yeah, I was locked in a trunk, but yeah.
Yeah.
I remember all the heart-to-heart moments I had with Harry, even though that wasn't really me.
Well, that's why he's kind of distant the whole rest of the thing, is you're like, the whole rest of the movies. Like, you never really see him in any
Yeah, and it's not like we have anything to go off from any of the previous movies. That was his first introduction, so we're not like, oh, yo, what's up with him? Like, what's his problem?
Sure.
And it was it's a continuation of the Defense Against the Dark Arts teacher having something weird about them.
Sure.
You know? But it was that the Defense Against the Dark Arts teacher was kidnapped and wasn't really there.
I guess my problem with Goblet of Fire is I feel like Harry kind of took a step backwards in his development.
He started kind of being a prick.
Yeah, and like in Chamber of Secrets and Prisoner of Azkaban, you see him finally come into his own and make active decisions that drove the plot. In the first half of Goblet of Fire, things just happen to him. He's tagging along with the Weasleys to the World Cup. His name obviously gets taken out of the Goblet of Fire. That's the point. It wasn't him, but you know. He doesn't figure out... Someone tells him that the first task is dragons. Someone tells him how to defeat his dragon, which really he didn't fight it, he just outran it. Someone tells him how to solve the egg. Someone... the girls practically throw themselves at him to get him to ask them to the ball. It isn't until the end of the first challenge when he actively decides to save What's-Her-Face's sister, as well as Ron, and after that he makes his own decisions. He saves people in the maze, he fights Voldemort.
Sounds like you only have a problem with the first half of the movie.
I do have a problem with the first half.
But if you can't get through the first half, the second half isn't going to help.
The first half wasn't that bad, and the second half is amazing.
I liked how it legitimately raised the stakes for it. It's not one of my favorites, but I still think it's fun.
It's safe to say it's going above Deathly Hallows?
I think it's going to go below Deathly Hallows.
No, it's going above.
I think it's above Deathly
Hallows. Below Deathly Hallows Part 2?
Chambers, this one's number 2 for me.
Really?
Yeah.
This is always...
Goblet of Fire was so great.
I've never been a huge fan of it, but it's always been in my top half.
Sorcerer's Stone.
Sorcerer's Stone.
Hey, that's a movie.
It is a movie.
That's a good movie.
That's a good movie.
Sorry. It's not the best of them, but it's fun. It's pretty exposition heavy, but that's necessary for setting up a franchise.
Well, setting up an entire world, dude.
Yeah.
Well, I mean, Harry has had no part in the Wizarding World up to this point.
Right.
He just thinks, that one time at the zoo was pretty weird, huh?
Right. Me and Matt were talking about this a little bit earlier. I mean, the whole thing is very heavy on introducing Harry, and it just kind of goes throughout their school year. And sure, a few weird things happen in between, like him seeing that guy drinking unicorn blood out in the forest, or just the little weird stuff. Mm-hmm. But it's not really till the end of the movie where he stumbles upon the main plot, where he's like, oh well, I better go get the Sorcerer's Stone, defeat Voldemort,
Well, he doesn't think he's defeating Voldemort. He thinks that he's just trying to
get it
Snape
before Snape does.
Yeah, he just thinks he's trying to stop Snape, which is, it's interesting. It has a lot of
petty.
It has a lot of fun things happen.
He's 11.
I know, but still.
Right, but the story as a whole movie is not as strong as the other movies.
It's true.
Not to say that it's not good. It is good.
It's setting up a lot of stuff, and it tells a good complete story, and it ends everything's fine now. We've defeated Voldemort, kind of a thing. Set it up for a sequel, but we defeated Voldemort.
Yeah, I guess
if this makes enough money, we'll do a sequel.
This is probably the biggest instance where the movie differing from the book is a big deal. Because in a book, you can just deliver exposition for hours, and it's fine because, the longer the book, the great.
Yeah.
Great. But if you for a movie, if you go past the 2-hour mark, especially for a movie like this, it's like, okay, all right, let's rein it in. You're losing us. And so the movie ends up being very episodic. There's a moment where they go into this class, the teacher does a thing, and then the little fanfare plays, and we move on to the next day. Or, now it's Christmas, and... Yeah, it's just little individual segments that are just put next to each other, sprinkled in with the clues of the main plot. Like, someone let in a troll. That's interesting.
Right.
There's a troll.
Snape's kind of shady. That's interesting.
Snape's got a bite on his leg.
So, just as a brief side note, I, in high school, had an English teacher who was very strict about attendance. If you weren't in class when the bell rang, you were considered late. But she was also a big Harry Potter fan, and there was one day where I was running really late. So I was taking a test or something in the other class. And so instead of just taking a tardy, I burst into the class while she was teaching, because she would start teaching as the bell rang. I burst into class a minute or two late and said, "There's a troll in the dungeon!" and then just fell on my face. It was awesome. And everybody laughed, and I sat down, and the teacher came up to me after and was like, "You know what, you're not tardy this time, but don't do that again."
I remember that. I just feel like all the victories at the end were great and, gave Harry the nice little ego boost he needed, but they just weren't very merited. You find out at the end that Dumbledore cursed the mirror so that anybody who had pure desires and wouldn't use the stone for themselves would receive the stone. So whether Harry was there or not, Quirrell would never have gotten it.
But but if Harry wasn't there, Quirrell also wouldn't have had his face melted off. So at least
I mean,
not that we know of.
I'm sure those events might have played out later. Like maybe Quirrell just takes Harry to the mirror. I don't know. But I don't know. It just seemed very. It didn't need to happen the way it did. And the whole thing, like, oh, Gryffindor won the House Cup over Slytherin. Yay! But why? Why does it matter if Slytherin got it or not?
Chess. Because Ron played a great game of chess.
Right. And, like, besides Malfoy tattling on them
almost died
because they snuck out in the middle of the night, Slytherin didn't do anything to him.
Yeah.
But Malfoy's a prick, and we know that from the very beginning because we know that.
Alright, well,
This one's
I'd
difficult.
probably put this one above Goblet of Fire.
Really? I was thinking maybe
Above Goblet of Fire?
below Deathly Hallows.
Yeah.
You guys want to put it below Deathly Hallows?
Yeah,
It's
I like-
great,
I like
necessary.
Deathly Hallows
I just
more.
think it has more merit because it's the starter one.
Sure, and that's important, but
But this
compared
is
to
the ending one.
compared to
if you
the-
don't
yeah.
stick the landing, like, great example. This is quarantine, and not a single person has mentioned that they're watching Game of Thrones right now. If you don't stick the landing, no one's gonna remember you.
Yeah, alright. I guess it was good, but you're right. It's not the best.
It's important, but we got some great moments in all three of these.
Yeah.
There's even some okay moments in Order of the Phoenix.
I just think it's the most memorable, but probably not for...
Probably just because it's
Good
been around the
reasons.
longest.
Yeah, and you have to start it every time you watch the series.
It's true.
Right. You're right.
Deathly Hallows Part 1.
Deathly Hallows Part 1.
Deathly Hallows was an interesting movie. It's not the best, but it's also not the worst. I like it because a couple reasons. I like the lore that it sets up and how it builds up to the climactic end.
Sure.
And it's kind of like an adventure movie. They're going out, they're trying to find things, they're trying to get stuff done.
I liked it because it was the only one at the time that it came out that we didn't see them in school. This was them like, all right, let's get crap done mode instead of, all right, let's go to school mode kind of a thing,
Yeah, I did enjoy that about it too. I just think that the pacing was a little slow.
It was. Because, I mean, this was one of, if not the first climax, last book to be split into two movies. A lot of movies did it after, but I feel like this was one of the first. And it was like, really? Did we really need to split it up? Because the most of the time, they're just in the woods arguing with each other, and then the Snatchers show up, which I feel like was awkward.
No, they had the heist of the bank. That was dope.
Was that the first one?
Yeah.
That was dope. I thought that was the second one.
That's in the first one. They have the super cool bedtime story of how Deathly Hallows came to be. It's like all the puppets on the wall. That was fetching cool.
That was cool.
That was interesting.
Didn't one of the twins die in this one?
No, one of the twins died in the second one, but Dobby died.
Dobby dies. This is where Hedwig dies, because you got the whole Flight of the Seven Potters, I think it's called, where one of the twins gets his ear blown off.
Oh, that's what it was, yeah, gets his ear blown off. Good movie. I would not put it in the top 5.
No, it's just a little slow.
Yeah, it's just, it's building up to something, which,
I would
what it
say
builds
that.
up to is good, but...
Necessary.
Alright, for my ranking, I would probably put it below Sorcerer's Stone.
Same.
The HalfBlood Prince.
I
Number
think
6.
this one's worse than the Order of the Phoenix, as of watching them all today. And
Really?
here's why. I've never fully understand the plot of either of them. Even after a handful of times watching both, I could never understand what they were trying to do in Order of the Phoenix or HalfBlood Prince. Chamber of Secrets, obviously, something's killing people, we gotta figure out what it is and stop it.
That's true.
Pretty
HalfBlood
straightforward.
Prince does come off as, the second half of Order of the Phoenix, where it's mostly politics the whole time.
It's politics, and it's just,
Honestly, I can vaguely... going through all these movies in my mind, what even was the plot line?
So
Harry
I
finds a book and does well in class?
yeah, well, so yeah.
Does
so,
well in potions class, and then finds out
Sure.
that Snape is the Half-Blood Prince, and then Snape kills Dumbledore.
But why does it matter that we know that Snape's the Half-Blood Prince? So yeah, here's the plot. Dumbledore invites a new professor back because he has a specific memory about Voldemort as he grew up that leads to the Horcrux thing, right?
Okay.
And so Harry's trying to get close to Slughorn to get the memory to figure out the Horcrux thing.
Sure. Who's the Defense Against the Dark Arts teacher in this?
Snape.
Classic.
Because Slughorn takes his old potion spot.
He's only there for a year.
Slughorn?
No, Snape.
Yeah, because, I guess he could have been headmaster. Anyway. Meanwhile, Malfoy is recruited by Voldemort because there's a defensive spell over Hogwarts none of the Death Eaters can get in.
Right.
But Malfoy still can. And he's using a special cabinet in a secret room where if you go in on one side in the town, you can come out the other side in Hogwarts. So he's trying to fix it so that they can come through and kill Dumbledore. And they do.
Right.
And that's it. They figure out Slughorn's memory, the Death Eaters break in and kill Voldemort. Or Dumbledore.
Harry learns how to do the thing where he blocks Voldemort's mind.
That was the fifth one.
Is that in the fifth one?
That is the fifth one.
It just seems like such a loose plot line to me.
It is. See, that's what I was saying. For the longest time, I could not remember what the actual overall plot of both Order of the Phoenix or Half-Blood Prince was.
I remembered Order of the Phoenix is like they train,
Yeah.
they go and they try and get the...
See, after watching them both today, I realized Half-Blood Prince is a little bit more boring. It's just...
At least it ends with Dumbledore dying, which is kind of a big moment.
Sad moment.
And kicks off the events of 7, 1, and 2.
Right. It brings up the Horcruxes and... it's important, but I don't know, it was just a little boring. It's definitely the darkest of the series, both literally and narratively. Literally everything was so dark, I could have sworn it was in black and white at some parts.
Yeah. It's just, you have some movies... In movie franchises where you have a lot of movies building a world, you have some movies that are really good by themselves and build the world, and then you have some that are just building the world or building the story.
Yeah.
And this is definitely just a let's build the story.
It's a setup for the finale.
Right.
Now, that is just my opinions after watching them today. Maybe they'll change. If you guys think Order of the Phoenix truly is worse than this, I'm okay with it. It's just little things I noticed today, like, both plots are kind of boring, but this one a little more so.
See,
not as interesting of a climax as Order of the Phoenix.
I would say it's more interesting of a climax than Order of the Phoenix, just like in terms of emotional investment, because Dumbledore dies.
Yeah, I kind of agree
Sirius
with
Black
Daniel.
dies.
Nobody cares
Well,
about Sirius Black.
Sirius Black has only been in there for 2, 3 movies at the time. Dumbledore's been in there for 6.
He's a very central figure.
I
would put it above Order of the Phoenix.
Okay.
Yeah, me too.
So drop Order of the Phoenix down another peg. Half-Blood Prince just right above it,
Yeah.
or further up?
No, right above it.
Right above it. Yeah.
It's bad,
better,
but it's not that bad.
Now, clarifying, none of these movies are bad movies. They're just worse than others.
There's a reason Harry Potter's the most popular franchise ever, and it's because of these movies.
Prisoner of Azkaban.
We haven't gotten to any... We're including Fantastic Beasts.
Right.
And we successfully left those for the last somehow.
Yep.
So Prisoner of Azkaban is great.
Prisoner of Azkaban is fetching dope. It's my favorite because it's the first one where it starts to look interesting. It starts to look more like a beautiful movie rather than just vaguely magical boarding school.
I think this one has a lot of suspense to it, which makes it a lot of fun.
For sure.
I mean, the first half of it's like, oh, serial killer's gonna come kill Harry.
That's interesting.
Right.
This is the only one that doesn't directly have anything to do with Voldemort. Sure, the reason Sirius Black is in Azkaban is Voldemort related, but beyond that...
Like,
this is just
Voldemort
a serial
himself
killer.
Doesn't show up at all.
This is just a serial killer who's gonna come kill Harry. That's a big deal.
Yeah.
Except he's not. Spoilers.
Right. I really like how Gary Oldman, the first thing you see of him is just him yelling at you from the newspaper. You are it's not, okay, we're going to introduce this slightly creepy character. No, it's just him holding a mugshot thing yelling at you.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Well, I mean, here's the thing. It's a great movie, and I think it has some of the most interesting characters. But as far as plotline goes, you know what? I wouldn't even say that. Plotline's great. It gets really deep into character history in the world of Harry Potter and a lot of background and lore, which I find super interesting.
When you know more about the background, specifically between Lupin, James, Sirius, and
Marauders.
The movie becomes so much more interesting.
It really does.
So cool.
And I think it's way cool. I mean, it includes Lupin, who's a freaking werewolf, which is freaking dope. But the thing is, as far as a consistent storyline, it doesn't feel as concise to me as other movies may.
It's not as tight of a screenplay, but it gives it some breathing room. It gives these characters a chance to just go to the town and hang out for a little bit. It gives an opportunity for mischief to happen, and it kind of creates this air where you got this super serious serial killer plot thing coming after Harry, but what he really wants to do is just go hang out with his friends on the weekend, you know?
I almost feel like every Harry Potter movie is like almost a different genre.
Yeah.
Where like Harry Potter one is like fantasy kind of adventure.
And that's one of the reasons why I do like these movies, is because I feel like they're constantly at least attempting to try something new.
Right, which is fun. And number 2 is, like I said earlier, like a thriller horror. Whereas I feel like this one is more, I don't even know how you would describe it, like
a suspenseful character drama.
Yeah, suspenseful character. That's a really good way of putting it. Yeah, for sure. And then, 4's the action movie.
7's the heist movie.
Right.
7-1's the heist movie.
Right. I think the reason that you were feeling like it's not as concise is because there's a lot of moving parts, specifically with the time travel part.
Oh, man.
I mean, the halfway point, halfway into the movie is when Sirius shows up in the Shrieking Shack and Lupin turns into a werewolf. That's the halfway point. And then they go through all of that, travel back in time, do it all again, and then the end. And it's just super interesting, and there's just a lot of moving parts of, okay, well, we know where they went the first time, and now we're trying to keep track of that chain of events, plus Harry and Hermione going back and doing it again, basically.
Well, sure. I mean, and I'd still put this in the top 5.
Absolutely.
But
top 3.
But
hardcore.
I think my main problem with it is, and it's not a huge problem, is because, you got like these different genres almost of movies. This one is a little less fun and a little more intense than the first 2 were.
For sure.
Yeah,
That's
the first 2 were like, you're introduced to this magical world, a lot of fun, like I said. Number 2, still a lot of fun, but also kind of dark and kind of creepy.
Especially after the halfway point.
Right, but the sense of like, still discovering this magical world is a lot of fun, these characters. But then number 3 just drops you in, and it's like, all right, people are going to die. A lot of people are going to die.
It's because you got the new director who has the new tone. But I feel like number 3 was the perfect bridge between the old, fanciful magic of the first 2 and
magic.
the just bat crap crazy dark of 4 and on.
Right.
This was the perfect middle point of, it's darker, there's scary things like Dementors, but then you have a bunch of silly moments like Neville getting attacked by the monster book or whatever.
No, I agree with you. I think that's exactly what it was meant to do, was be that bridge. But at the same time, it's the first one where it makes me miss the kind of silly aspect of what Harry Potter was, which is why I would put it under number 2, but still above everything else.
It's my favorite one. This one's my favorite, so I would put it above number 2, but...
Yeah, it'll come to me, won't it? Because I flip between the 2, honestly.
You can put it wherever you want.
I think I'll put it below number 2. Okay. Because when I first watched it, it was confusing. There was a lot of moving parts. It took me a minute to really appreciate what was happening. Once I learned the backstory, figured out what was happening, just move that up. It'll probably be number 1. Okay, that works. Once I figured out what was happening, it was so much better. But you're right. It's a little tricky to follow at first. It's only until you become a super Potter fan, know about everyone's backstory and hopes and dreams, and that hey, this is a little bit deeper. This is a little bit more interesting.
Okay, since I think these are the last 2 left, I think we should just do Fantastic Beasts first.
Yeah, I agree.
Fantastic Beasts and where to find them.
Now, hear me out. I loved this one.
This was a good one.
This one was super dope. Oh.
Did you not?
No.
Really?
No, I mean, I don't think it's a bad movie. It's just why? Why?
That's a fair question.
Well, now hold on. I think I have an answer to that question. We were just talking about it. This one takes us back into the fun, silly world of wizarding. Except, you're way, way back in, like, the past.
And I can kind of see that where it's trying to be a little bit of a brighter tone. If that's the case, then why bring in child abuse and serial killers?
They needed a good villain.
You needed a villain, yeah.
But, like, it's just...
The child abuse was present from the beginning of Sorcerer's Stone.
Yeah, you're
Yeah.
right. But my problem with this is that this is seriously the story of one of the guys that wrote one of the textbooks that Harry Potter used in one of the years that he was at school.
It's totally ridiculous. That's for sure.
It is, but it's a fun movie. That's what I liked about it. I went in, and this one was made after the end of 7 Part 2. Right?
Oh yeah, absolutely.
It takes you back into what you love about number 1 and number 2, which was the fun, silly aspect. Nothing's too heavy. Nothing's too serious.
Except for the part where she's being tortured and about to lose all of her. She's basically about to get a lobotomy.
Sure, except but it's still the Harry Potter world, so you need something dark. Anyway,
there needs to be a conflict.
The point is, it had all the fun animals and it let you explore the magic world.
It did have all the fun.
That was something interesting
animals.
And it had fun characters. I loved Jacob. And I loved the two. Yeah, I loved the 2 girls he was dating. These had some of my favorite characters. Like, I almost liked them more than I liked the main 3 from Harry Potter. Almost.
I don't think it's a bad movie. It wasn't my favorite. I didn't feel like there was a need for the movie, but they did okay. But I feel like they were trying to... I wish this was a one-off. I wish they had done it and then... Instead of doing Crimes of Grindelwald, which...
Well, hold on. That's what you need to think about it as. Because Crimes of Grindelwald sucked.
I know, and I wish
but Fantastic Beasts as its own movie was awesome.
What I wish that they would have done is instead of making a sequel to that, make a completely different Harry Potter movie in the... different Harry Potter movie in the Harry Potter world. Make it about a different professor. Make it about Gilderoy Lockhart or something like that.
That would be a fun movie.
See, start making anthology kind of movies instead of trying to start franchises kind of a thing. I think that would be cool.
I agree with you. First of all, it's an entire movie based on one textbook they mentioned once. And I get that, but I feel like they made the best movie they could from that premise. Do they have to stretch it to 5 movies? Probably not. Well, time will tell.
Are they making another movie
definitely
after this?
They are.
See, here's my thing, though.
It won't come out for a while.
I agree with you that
tanked, but
the overall arching storyline, that one got too political. It got too into it. But this one by itself was just a fun... I went on this was my first date with Liz, was actually to go see this movie.
Oh.
And we just had so much fun watching this movie. I didn't even like Harry Potter that much at the time, but I remember seeing that, I'm like, I would go watch that again. It had fun characters, it had a fun story. Sure, it got a little dark, but it was still concise and in its own world. Mm-hmm. And then this came in. And also, seeing Johnny Depp come out of nowhere was terrifying.
It was.
But also exciting.
That was weird.
It was interesting.
That was my least favorite part of the movie. Colin Farrell was fun.
He should have fun. Anyway.
But that's why I would put this one more towards the top, and this one way towards the bottom.
I think Crimes of Grindelwald will just be 10th.
It'll be the bottom, and we'll explain why in a minute.
It's bad.
I think the interesting thing about Fantastic Beasts is it has a chance to kind of start over with Harry Potter. Harry Potter went this direction. Fantastic Beasts, there's no books that we have to stick to. We can try new things. Credence was what Harry Potter would have become if Dumbledore wasn't a part of his life. He was tortured, he was child abused, he was told not to use magic, and if Dumbledore wasn't there to save him, he probably would have turned into Credence. And our main character, Newt, isn't a prophesied hero, opposite side of the dark coin thing. He's just a dude that is writing a book. And he stumbles in and is like, well, I'll help. I guess I have nothing else better to do.
And he's got a fun, quirky sidekick who is just an absolute delight to the movie.
The main 4 people are actually really fun. And Eddie Redmayne in particular is who I stick around for.
Mm-hmm.
Now here's why I love this one so much. It's got the fun parts that I like about Harry Potter movies.
Mm-hmm.
It's got that fun feel that I think is what made Harry Potter interesting in the first place.
Lighthearted.
Right. And so, in my opinion, I would put it below Prisoner of Azkaban, right where Matt just opened up.
Really?
Yes.
With how much you like Goblet of Fire? I mean, I think it's a great movie.
I like Goblet of Fire, but I definitely like this one more than I like Goblet of Fire.
Really?
I mean, I like Fantastic Beasts, but it's always been a good middle ground movie for me.
You know, I mean, I'd put it below Sorcerer's Stone, but that's me. I know that's probably pretty critical of me.
So you want it here, Daniel wants it here. I mean, we really just have to decide, is it better than Deathly Hallows Part 2?
I would say absolutely. I'm fine putting it below Goblet of Fire, but...
Dude.
I know, but Deathly Hallows is just too... It's perfectly intense, but...
It's still in the top 5, even if we put it below Deathly Hallows.
What I like about Harry Potter. What I like about Harry Potter is the fun, silly, magical world. And that's exactly what these ridiculous animals brought to it.
I would put it below Deathly Hallows. I think Deathly Hallows, it was Harry Potter sticking to landing. It had all these movies that were ups and downs and varying levels of quality, but Deathly Hallows was it getting one thing right, and that was the ending.
That's fair. I mean,
you only have to get two things right, the beginning and the ending.
Fantastic Beasts is in the Harry Potter universe, but it's not really a Harry Potter movie.
Right.
I'm going to put it right here at number 5.
Now, for Crimes of Grindelwald, it sucked. It was bad.
It was bad.
It was too long. It was dumb. It was dumb. It was dumb.
The reason why I feel like it was not great was because it got too caught up in the franchise aspect of it all. Fantastic Beasts works as a standalone, and honestly, if they kept it at the one, it would have been fine, like you were saying, like a one-off thing. But they...
Anthologies, man.
But they had the idea right out the gates to make a franchise. Crimes of Grindelwald was nothing more than a setup for whatever the third one will be. And that, unfortunately, leaves it without a story of its own. The plot it had was confusing. The thing with Lita Lestrange and
that was weird.
Credence and mysterious baby, like, it was just not great. And Grindelwald's a terrible person.
It was just so confusing the whole way through. I didn't understand a word of what was going on.
See, the problem was that he was trying to be Voldemort, but Johnny Depp. It was like they were trying to mix Voldemort and Jack Sparrow, and it... Why?
I can't tell you why that won't work.
Yeah. Just understand that it won't.
Should we just put this at the bottom?
Yeah.
Accio tag. You see, that's a Harry Potter thing.
Nerd.
Even like me, which is I proclaim myself as a Harry Potter fan that knows enough about the franchise, going into Crimes of Grindelwald still didn't understand what was happening.
We need to do the thing.
You're right, we do need to do it.
Can I also just say I never found Dumbledore that interesting of a character?
He was fine.
Even in the original movie, it was like, yeah, you're a sage type, mentor person. But...
And he did good in that role. Having him as the young hero mentor of it all, probably not.
He's just not that exciting. He's just he's basically the Superman of the Harry Potter world, and I hate Superman.
Well, that's the end. Here's our list as it stands. At number 10, The Crimes of Grindelwald. Number 9, Order of the Phoenix. Number 8, The HalfBlood Prince. Number 7, Deathly Hallows Part 1. Number 6, Sorcerer's Stone, or Philosopher's Stone for our British friends. Number 5, Fantastic Beasts and Where to Find Them. Number 4, Deathly Hallows Part 2. Number 3, Goblet of Fire. Number 2, The Prisoner of Azkaban. And our number 1 best Harry Potter, in our opinion, is The Chamber of Secrets.
I'm surprised you guys put Goblet of Fire as high up as you did.
Okay, just in a couple of days when we put out the more succinct list, and we'll rank something else eventually. Bye.